This is Saturday. We'd like to say welcome once again to our program for the day. And of course, if you're just joining us, let's see here. I have to remove something from the screen here. There you go. Thank you once again, and welcome to our program, our live broadcast. This is the Gracious Hopes live podcast on KMTV. KMTV, we are everywhere, and if you put it to the test, we beat the rest. My name is Alexander Ray, your host, and as always, I have here along the co-host of this program, Reverend Suarez Dede. Now, the love of liberty is proclaimed as the official motto of our country, Liberia. Therefore, the country is established on a universal concept or principle of being free from oppressive restrictions imposed by the authority on one's way of life, behavior, or political views. Usually, it is a matter of an individual or a group's right or privilege to live in freedom from control by fate or necessity. Contrary to living a life of freedom and expression, is to live and experience the ugly emotions of panic, fear, and anxiety. And this brings us to the awareness of the current situation in our country, Liberia. Stream of reports on mysterious death of citizens for unknown reasons raise the question of personal freedom, liberty, and in fact, security. Front Page Africa, Daily Observer, The Analyst, The Enquirer, and many other local dailies report that Reverend Dr. William R. Talbot Jr., son of the late Liberian President William Talbot, was murdered by unknown assassins in his home on November 1st. Moreover, Mr. John Hilary Tubman, another son of a former Liberian president, and Miss Maud Elliott, a public servant, experienced a similar fate in September of this year. These mysterious deaths are under investigation, and the Liberian government has offered a reward of 15,000 United States dollars for information leading to the arrest of the murder suspects. But the irony is that most Liberians are uneasy about these developments, and they raised the question concerning the motive behind these unwarranted deaths, in addition to ritualistic killings for human sacrifice. The list of mysterious killings is endless, given the history of Liberia. Nevertheless, the latest method employed by killers to get rid of citizens is causing panic and fear, and the reality of Liberia's character in the sight of the international community is unsettling. So then, the poignant question is, how does Liberia find real long term answers to moral decency, economic recovery, and prosperity, healing, reconciliation, and cohesive national identity and patriotism? And that is a question for each and every one of us to answer. We have a special guest appearance today, Ambassador Milton Nathaniel Barnes, author of Enough is Enough, a recent popular commentary on the spate of unresolved killings in the country. And he is also an author of Left Brain, Right Brain, Thoughts and Musings of a Servant. He once served as finance minister, ambassador to the United States, and former presidential aspirant. And before we bring him on here to discuss these matters, I'm so glad to also bring here our usual, let me see here, co-host, Reverend Suarez Dede. Reverend Dede, we have a whole mouthful to discuss here today.
Because we have a whole lot of things happening in our beloved motherland. So I'm not surprised we have a whole mouthful to discuss today. But before I do anything, I'd like to thank God for this is the day the Lord has made. We're going to rejoice and be glad in it. And of course, I'm happy that we have our guest today, whom I interacted with. We was ambassador here in the United States of America. We are glad that we can discuss this troubling situation we have in our country. All of us are disturbed, we are worried, and also fearful about what is happening in our nation. It doesn't matter how far we are from the country, our heart is with our nation, no matter what we are. So this discussion today, just to throw light on what we have, and then of course we look at it the biblical aspect of what is going on, so that we give the balanced story to our viewers and our listeners. So I want to welcome you to this program, brother. God bless you.
Yes, yes. We are so thankful and so grateful to have our special guest here, Ambassador Barnes. And now, he's a teacher as well. I learned from him yesterday that he is teaching financing, I believe, in banking at AME University. He is impacting knowledge into students for future leadership, and that's a great thing, Ravi
Yeah,
Dede.
I agree with you, Alex. I mean, I agree with you 100%. You see, the thing is, we have to prepare the future leaders of this country. When I say this country, I mean our native land, Liberia. America has a lot of trained people. It does not mean Liberia does not have trained people, but we still have to impact more knowledge into the people who will replace the leadership tomorrow, so that they are prepared for the task at hand. So I say bravo to him for sharing what he has with the young generation, impacting into them his own knowledge, as they drink from his fountain. I hope they can take what they are learning and use it for the betterment of our beloved nation, Liberia.
Yes, and so in the midst of all these chaos that are going on, the mysterious deaths of citizens, the one that we just highlighted with some other list of deaths or mysterious killings, for ritualistic killing, for human sacrifice, alleged or allegations being leveled at certain people in government or in the private sector, and the mysterious killings are something I believe that Liberians are grappling with right now. They are living in fear, worry, or may I say anxiety, and of course living in a country that was basically founded based on the universal concept or principle of freedom or living your life freely. We have come to a point where we are asking a question where this nation's soul is. Are we a people with love, true love for our country, true love for God? And how are we uh, seeing the future? What is the hope? And that is the main focus of our discussion here today on this podcast. And if you are just joining us, this is the Gracious Hopes live podcast on KMTV. We are here every Saturday, 3 p.m. Central Time, 4 p.m. Eastern Time. In Liberia or in London, if you have the GMT time zone, it is at 8 p.m. And so we ask the question, where is our hope? Where do we anchor our soul at this point in our nation's history? It is our prayer that we have this situation in our country resolved in every way so that we can live in peace and harmony and reconcile and love one another. Like the Bible says, or Christ says that we must love our neighbor just how we love ourselves. But first, we must love God with all our heart, our mind, our soul, and then express our love outwardly to other people. So the thing is that we are now seeing the lack of love, because if you love your neighbor, you will not just kill your neighbor, you will love your neighbor and show that love through benevolence or through the expression of working together as a community and people. But we are all asked off right now, and we don't know what is going on. And hopefully, we can find light at the end of the tunnel, Reverend Dede.
Yeah, in the absence of love, hate abounds. In the absence of love, malice increases. In the absence of love, bitterness grows. And that's what we are experiencing right now in our motherland. It's a sad commentary that we should be discussing, not just ritualistic killing, now talking about murder. And by the matter of fact, it's William Arab about the third. William Arab about the third. I think we said junior, but I think it's the third. So that
The
we can,
third,
yeah,
yes.
the third. Yeah. So as we speak right now, our people are fearful. I just talked with some of my relatives in Monrovia, and everybody is on edge. People running home by 5, 6 o'clock. That is not Monrovia. People are used to being maybe in popular places on Broad Street and other places
Mhm.
up to the wee wee hours before they go home. But now, according to what I'm hearing, people are running home. maybe someone exaggerate. Human beings will do that sometimes, but the bulk of the people say they run home because they are fearful. But then you run home for safety, but the home is not even safe. The murders that we are talking about occurred in their homes, and that is so threatening and scary, because if you are not safe in your own home, where else can you be safe? Not on the streets, not in anybody's vehicle. And what is also disturbing, Alice, is that these homes have people living around the community, so nobody
Mm-hmm.
has seen anything, especially for Reverend Tobo the third. He lived in the most around a compound. I think it has security, the geosecurity. And up to now, police has not found anything. I don't want to believe the police not doing anything. I believe they're trying their best to uncover the perpetrators of these acts. But up to now, no suspect. We don't want to rush to any judgment, but we want to give everybody the benefit of the doubt, especially the law enforcement and the national security group. But it is scary, and it is scary when you are not safe in your own home. So love is absent. It's because of the absence of love that good neighborliness is also being eroded,
Mm-hmm.
because love
Yes.
is dying.
Yes. Yes, and that's how we see it from a biblical perspective, and so this bring on the question of which our special guest, Ambassador Barnes, been asking, and his latest commentary on the spate of murder. He had a whole list here of people, and at the end there he said possibly others unknown. He said, "What's going on, my people?" And he goes on to say, "In the midst of poverty, in the midst of economic hardship, why is this going on?" And so he highlights the point. He asks the question, where is leadership? And so we'll be looking at uh, uh, what is going on in our country, the entire situation, as well as where do we find hope? How do we find economic recovery? How do we do everything in our own ability and influence to bring about peace and stability, as well as living together in the community and in the society as a whole as people who love one another. And so now, with pleasure, we are so glad to bring in our guest, Ambassador Milton Nathaniel Barnes. We'd like to say welcome to our studios today.
Thank you very much. I'm very happy to be with both of you.
Yes, we are so glad to see you. And you have worked both national and internationally, seen many things, been around for a long time, let me put it that way. And as a prominent citizen, I know you are, living with your family, looking at life in many ways and means, and you are still engaged into day-to-day activity in our country. You are one of the managing partners for Aurora, and I believe you reach out to those who are impoverished, which of course it is a charity, may I put it that way, to do for our populace. Now, enough is a very popular commentary you wrote, and I was glad that you wrote that because you asked a lot of poignant questions, and it gets to the heart of everything that is going on, which of course it boils down to leadership as a whole. Now, what motivated you to write such article, and why are you raising these questions? And what are some of the ways and means in which we can find hope for our country, Ambassador Barnes?
Well, first of all, thank you very much for a lovely introduction. Excuse me. Um, Let me be a little bit, start by being a little bit biblical, like you two gentlemen are. Uh, I'm a deeply spiritual person. I don't consider myself very religious, but I do believe that there's a distinct difference between religion and spirituality. And I like to see myself as a deeply spiritual person. My very favorite passage in the Holy Bible is found at Matthew 25:40. And it goes something like this: For inasmuch as you have done this unto the least of these, my brethren, you have done it unto me. Now, I happen to have been very, very blessed in all of my life. I never knew poverty. I always was in a decent school, always had shoes on my feet, unlike many, many, many of my compatriots in Liberia. So I'm not going to apologize to anyone because of God's blessings, of the situation into which I was born, the circumstances into which I was born. That was God's divine intervention. But I also know that there's a biblical passage that says, for of those to whom much is given, much is required. So considering that I am very, very blessed, I'm 67 years old. I've traveled all over the world. I've seen some of the most powerful people on this globe. I'm by no stretch of the imagination a wealthy man, but I'm happy. I have great kids, great grandkids, married to a wonderful woman. And all that says to me, God has blessed me so well, magnificently. How am I using those blessings to reach up and help others, especially those less fortunate than myself? So, of course, there's the foundation and all those things. But what's very fundamental here is service doesn't necessarily mean a physical gift. Okay, it also means advocacy, which I must commend you too for what you do also. So I feel this desire, not only more of a spiritual desire to reach out and serve. And that's some of the motivations that prompted me to say what I said. There's a distinct difference between truth and facts. Your truth and my truth and Reverend Dede's truth may be from a Christian perspective, may be totally different from the truth of someone of a person of Muslim or Islam, practicing Islam. But facts are facts. Okay, facts are facts. And the basis upon which our country was founded, as you mentioned, Alexander, it was based on freedom of expression, freedom of being able to move around. And that freedom or the effectiveness of any country, any democracy, any country on the face of this globe is based on the cardinal principle of justice. And more importantly, that justice should be available to all of us. Okay, so if you don't have that cardinal fundamental fact abundant in the society will eventually crumble. And that's all of our concerns right now. Okay, people are being murdered, just literally indiscriminately, and with no trace of anything being done about it. Now, of course, there's an issue of why isn't anything being done about it? That's another matter. Okay. But in the midst of our own deprivation in Liberia, hardships, hunger, the absence of opportunities, okay, then it's culminated by deep fear and threats. And to me, those are issues that are alarming signals that we need to rectify it as soon as possible. So those are the motivations that makes me the sort of person I am. And trust me, let me say it right now. I am nowhere perfect. Okay. I am just like every ordinary, everyday person, every Liberian person. Okay. I have joys, I have fears. Okay. I have concerns, I have sorrows. Okay. But I feel because of my blessings, I do need to speak out. Because at the end of the day, I'm afraid. I fear that when I die, I will have to face the Almighty God, and they will ask me, all those wonderful blessings I gave to you, what did you do? I want to be able to humbly say, Lord, you judge me. I did the best I could. So I don't want to get on a sermon or anything, but I just want to tell you those are the motivating factors. And it's very, very important that we in Liberia address the issues. Look, the challenges and the problems in Liberia is not one person's problem. It's not even one group's problem. It's all of our problem. And we all caused the problem. Thus, it's left with us to get together and fix the issues, fix the problem. Okay, that's basically how I feel. One last thing I need to tell you before I let you guys question me.
Mm-hmm.
In my mind, there are lots and lots of issues that we face within Liberia right now. Okay. But honestly, we're a relatively small country, under 5 million, plenty of land to go around. I really believe that while there are many issues that must be addressed, there are two fundamental problems we have. The first one is we are not a reconciled people. We are not unified. There is no common factor that brings us together as a people, as a Liberia. Because we are not reconciled, we cannot move forward with focus. We need to fix that. If we don't fix it, all the economic issues, all the social issues we have will continue to plague us. The second
Yes.
issue that's very, very important
Mm-hmm.
is corruption. We must overcome this issue of corruption because corruption is not only institutional or systemic, it's psychological. People believe that in order to survive, you must cheat. And that's absolutely not right. So we must get together, unify ourselves, address the issue of our reconciliation and unification, then get together and kill corruption.
Okay, and so this brings us to the whole idea about national identity and patriotism. We know those two words can be used interchangeably because you raise the whole idea about reconciliation as a people and understanding that we have a country and that country is ours, up to 5 million people. There's a whole lot to go around. But then in your article also, you said this brings to the whole matter of leadership. And you made a distinction between what it means to be a leader and what it means to be a politician. And looking at addressing our myriad of problems in our country, you said, well, the tool or the method that is being used to address problems in our country is wrong because politicians will always look at problems from a political advantage or perspective, or they use rhetorical persuasion. And then you said a true leadership will address a problem based on the facts and the way they are, as compared to a politician. So then it leads to the question, how do you explain the distinction between a typical politician leading and making the wrong or making the decisions or trying to solve problems and real leadership?
Well, good question. Like I said, a leader has an array of tools available to him to address problems as they arise. Economic problems, social problems, political problems, whatever those problems may be, there are specific tools that he can use to address. For example, you develop a problem of fiscal management and fiscal mobilization. Okay. You are not gathering or collecting enough taxes to meet the needs of the government, education, healthcare, and all the other things that people, security that they need. Okay. The leader will begin to look at, well, how can we stimulate our tax base, okay, to expand our collections of revenue of taxes, okay? I don't want to just focus on cash. How can I change it? How can I address it? Okay, a financial solution to that or a fiscal solution to that is, look, you can do it either of three ways. You can either expand your tax base, reduce your cost, or do a combination of the two. Okay, so how do I expand my tax base? Well, maybe I need to focus on providing incentives that will expand a very limited tax base. Okay, John Doe is a Liberian employer, manufacturer. And I say to him, well, John, you're a Liberian. How many Liberians do you have employed with you? He said, I have 10 Liberians. How much taxes do you pay? For talking purposes, he says, I pay 25% corporate income tax. What if I said to John, okay, you know what? For every 10 incremental Liberians you employ, I will reduce your taxes by 2%. What does that do? It appears on surface that the government is losing, the opportunity cost is 2%. They're going to lose 2% of revenue that it could collect from John. However, we don't take into account that when John hires those 10 additional Liberians, guess what? They pay taxes. When John gets a 2% cost reduction in tax liability, he can take that 2% and replow it into his business, expand his business, employ more people, the economy expands, the economy grows. That's the one side. On the other side, the expense side will say, okay, well, let's, instead of paying $80,000 for a car for a government official, let's pay $40,000. Immediate savings of $40,000. What I'm trying to say to you is you are using analytical tools that will address the problem. That's what a leader would do. Okay. A politician would say, use rhetoric and persuasion. They say, oh no, everything is okay. Don't worry. We'll find the money. Next year, the budget will be $14 billion. Okay. And we will harmonize compensation, talk, but no focus action to address the issue. Okay. The leader looks at politics as only a tool that he can use when needed. When he develop those policies, he or she may need to use the rhetoric, the persuasion, to get people to understand that those are the best tools, solutions to address the problem. Therein is the distinct difference between the two. Politician has one tool and one tool alone: political rhetoric and politics. A leader, on the other hand, has an array of tools. Interestingly enough, even if he doesn't know those tools, he knows where to find them. He knows how to go and get the experts that will come to bear and address these problems with effective, sustainable solutions.
Okay, that's good. That's good. Reverend Dede?
Yeah. So with your dissecting the difference between the political leader and the authentic leader, what would you say you are? Are you a politician or an authentic leader?
Without hesitating, I'm certainly a leader. As a matter of fact, as Reverend Red said earlier, I pursued the presidency in 2005, and there were 22 candidates. I came somewhere in the middle. Okay, it was my first foray into electoral politics, and one of the reasons why I was not successful was because I was too focused on the issue of leadership, as opposed to focusing on the political talk and rhetoric and miscommunication, so to speak. No, but I certainly consider myself a leader as opposed to a politician.
Okay, so now with all the spate of killings going on, and we are all concerned, you are concerned as well, and you raised a lot of questions about where are we going as a nation, or can we also endeavor to investigate the drivers of these mysterious killings? That is, those who are behind the killings, the assassins, and then you go on to say, lest we forget, regardless of the circumstances of these deaths, whether politically motivated and or based on hatred, they do have ripple effects that transcend the actual victims. And what do you mean about that? How does that transcend, that those actions transcend the victims?
Well, in both yours and Reverend Dede's intervention, you mentioned that people are afraid. Mm-hmm. So it's not the victim's family that are grieving and afraid for their own lives. We are all now afraid. We are afraid about getting home on time, getting to safety on time. But it's further exacerbated by the fact that it's been shown that even in our homes, we are not safe. So what happens in that particular instance? People generally, the survival is a primal instinct. Mm-hmm. So people would say, okay, well, since there isn't a system that will give me the confidence that I can sleep well at night, I will have to take it upon myself, okay, to protect me, my family, and those that I love. Thus the rise of being the vigilantism that we don't want to see. Okay, so it has a ripple effect. Fear has a ripple effect. Fear causes us to think as a people irrationally. We do things, reflexively, and it puts everybody at risk. So the most important thing is to create a system that will allow a certain amount of confidence and trust in the authority. The authority should have enough, it should be astute enough to know, well, we got a problem on our hands. We don't have the resources or the capacity to address them. Maybe we ought to begin to look elsewhere, look to sources and friends, and that can, as a matter of fact, bring the expertise and experience to bear to help us address this problem.
Mm-hmm. Reverend Dennis?
I'm looking at your statement here also, and I will quote and then I can follow with a question. You said, simply stated, this is due to the absence of law and order, which should, at the very least, investigate and inform the public so as to reassure them that authorities are responding with urgency. Now, my question is, in terms of law and order, would you mind elaborating on this statement in terms of law and order? What do you really mean when you talk about law and order? Because it involves a multiplicity of things. What specificity do you bring to this? Yeah.
You're right. In any society, there are a system. There's a system of rules that we all must live by. Okay. Now, those rules can emanate from culture because of the culture, our interaction with each other. Those rules can emanate from religion. Okay. But at the end of the day, in a government, a system of government, the rules are established by legal frameworks, a constitution, criminal laws, and all these things that are there. Now, interestingly enough, we have those things in Liberia. They are on the books. We are a deeply religious and culturally very sensitive people. We have rules that we live by. So whether they be social, economic, or political. Okay, that is what drives order in our society, living within the framework of those rules. When any aspect of the citizenry step outside of that framework and begin to do things that affect or impact others negatively, then we have a problem. Then we have an absence of the appropriate application of the laws and order. And we have authorities in our country that are supposed to do that. Now, if they fail in that effort, in that mission, we have a problem. Okay, so it's important that we look to our government, and more important that we can get to a point where we trust and have confidence in our government that they will provide security for us, they will protect us, and they will effectively pursue anyone who works outside of the framework of that law and order. It's very, very important that we have that particular confidence to do that. Okay.
Yes.
And when it doesn't happen, then we have chaos.
Yes.
Then we have chaos.
Yes, and that's why the panic and fear going on in the lives of most Liberians now. Is not just in the Monrovia area, but other parts of the country. For example, in Maryland, where we read about or saw on television the chaos that took place there. A police station was burned down due to ritualistic killings, the rise or the wave of ritualistic killings in that particular county. And in Ganta, in Bond County, there were dead bodies discovered with body parts missing. And it is a concern for each and every one of us. And in your article, you cried out for justice. It's time for each and every one of us to stand up and cry out for justice. And in other words, to call on the government to step up to its constitutionally mandated duty to the people. The people have the right to demand answers and ask the government to produce justice.
That's
And
right.
so justice, if justice is slain in the street, then we have the question of leadership. And of course, when it comes to that, the latest episode was a firing press release from the Association of Liberian Journalists in the Americas, our just president, Joe S. Macy, calling for the dismissal of the current Inspector General of the Police, and the organization listed a whole myriad of failures to bring about answers or solution, or may I say, a tangible report of killers, those who have been doing the killings in our country. But anyway, that's another thing. But however, Ambassador Barnes, I know you call for justice. I know that you want for the crime rate in the country to be reduced, and you want for the public as a whole to look at the facts of what is happening when it comes to safety. When there is any act that is atrocious, should be condemned, and the justice system should step up that effort to bring about justice to the family members who are now grieving. Now, you have been working not just in our country, Liberia, you have been working internationally. You are known. I can see here for a photo with John Travolta from Hollywood. I saw this picture on your Facebook. You have a lot of friends internationally, and you said that even if our security apparatus is short of resources, we could reach out to international friends and to see how best they can help us, as an impoverished country. Now, where do we cry out? Where do we reach out for resources based on your knowledge, former finance minister and ambassador to the USA?
Excellent question. Just one quick thing. That scenario you created about the people in Maryland County burning the police station, that is a manifestation of the fear and the loss of trust, okay, in our authorities to, as a matter of fact, protect them, okay? What's very, very important also is that it is important that the authorities inform its citizen about what it's doing. So we are operating not only in fear, but we are also operating in ignorance, because as far as many of us are concerned, nothing is being done. While in reality, there may be something that's being done, but it is important that the government informs the citizenry about what they are doing about it, and that they do consider it a matter of urgency. With reference to the issue of how to reach out for help, Liberia has an excellent history of excellent relations across the globe. Okay, the EU, the United States of America, even the OA, the African Union. Okay, we have a international relations apparatus in Liberia that we need to put to work for us. Okay, we receive hundreds of millions of dollars in aid and assistance. Okay, we need to approach our friendly donors, our friends, and say to them, look, you're trying to help us resolve our problems. Okay, but listen to us for a while. Nobody knows our problems better than we ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
We see this as a problem. We need your help. Okay, now that help might not necessarily be, oh, we're going to give you more financial assistance, but it might just be getting the appropriate experts. And it's very, very important when we do, as a matter of fact, get experts to come to our country to address issues and challenges that we have. We have this fundamental mistake that we always make. The experts come, they solve the problem, they leave. We need to take that paradigm one step further. The experts come. As soon as they come, let's find a couple of Liberian nationals, Liberians that are in Liberia or wherever, and tag them with those experts so that some of that technical knowledge, okay, that technical information that expert possesses, okay, can stay behind when they leave. Okay, so if you're going to bring in professional forensic experts in this particular instance with the murders, one of the conditions should be, we would like for your experts to mentor a certain number, reasonable number of Liberians, so that their own expertise and their own skills can be expanded. Okay, so in the event after they leave, we have information, we have a real transfer of technology, okay, that is sustainable. That's what I mean.
Yes. I'm trying to make some adjustment. Reverend Dada, go ahead.
Yes, certainly. But Mr. Ambassador, you asked a couple of questions in your expose, and I see you are responding to some of the questions you asked. And the questions include: can we, as a country and people, take decisive steps to address these issues and concerns? You already alluded to that. You commented on that. Can we source international support? You already mentioned that. But I want you to specifically speak to this one. Can we source international support to investigate these deaths, many of which seem mysterious, and I like how you put it, if and only if we lack the resources and technical ability to do so. Uh, I know you know that we lack the technical ability to do some of the things we have to do. Now, how do we go about getting the international support to investigate these murders, which is not the first time we're hearing about this?
There's a multiplicity of international representation right in Liberia that we could engage. Some of the top notch, top draw expertise exists in Europe, exists here, in the United States of America. Some of it even on the continent. Okay, so you know, if we had, or if we have, or had a relationship with these entities, be they multinational, or bilateral, or multilateral, we need to engage them. Look, we got an issue, especially in the midst of this particular chaos. Now, the government very well could have done that already, but it's important that it communicates to the citizen, okay, we've met with the American embassy and expressed to them our frustration about not having the appropriate expertise in-house to address certain aspects of these murders. Can you help? There is not one nation on this globe that is supposed to be a first world nation or a developed country that will look at a country like ours and say, no, I can't, I will not help you in that effort. They will help, but we just need to know when to ask and what to ask for. Okay, that's what I'm saying, if and only if.
And if you're just joining us, this is the Gracious Hopes podcast, live broadcast on KMTV. My name is Alexander Red, and the co-host of this program is Reverend Suarez Dede, and our special guest appearance is Ambassador Milton Nathaniel Barnes, and we are talking about myriad issues plaguing our country, focusing on the current mysterious deaths and the issue of leadership, as well as how do we reconcile as a people to know that love is the essence of our liberty. And if we want to live in freedom, first of all, we must go back to where we derive our freedom. And of course, it is stated in the preamble of our Constitution that God gave His grace, and based on His gracious providence and guidance, our nation will survive. Now, where is God in this whole midst? In the midst of all of these killings, are we a people veering away from our focus on the Holy God who gave us the country Liberia, or is this a hard issue? And I strongly believe that what is going on in Liberia right now, it is a hard issue. We can get all the resources, we can get the manpower, but if our hearts are not willing to commit in service to the Liberian people and put aside our own personal agendas as well as our own personal aggrandizement, then we will move forward as a nation. And I say this because we know that our country, traditionally, if you look at our heritage, it is based on Christian principles. And then we ask the question, are these principles and values being enacted in our culture today? And from my own personal observation, I believe that we are disintegrating as a country in a sense where our moral values are being put aside for our own personal gain. And we see that from corruption, because corruption does not physically start by stealing or taking something that does not belong to you. It starts from the heart, from the heart. And it goes back to what Christ Jesus said. If we love God with all our heart, our mind, and our soul, and our strength, then that will naturally flow out to other people. So lack of love, lack of justice, hatred is being replaced by love. And so as a country, with all the grieving hearts of the family members who are now looking for answer and hope, we say here on Gracious Hope that our hope lies in one person, and that is God in the person of Jesus Christ. And I say so because the president of our country, Liberia, George Weah, does not depend on his own power, strength, and ability to lead our country. You know why I say that? His own statement said that. Look what he said. He said, we must ask who? God. It is God who can lead us. It is God who can usher in that change that we need, reconciliation, healing, and of course, patriotism. And without God, we are powerless. And that is a very powerful message, not just for him, but from each and every one of us. So then, if we see our country wallowing in all of these violation of God's universal law, which of course we see in Exodus chapter 20, verse 19, thou shalt not kill, then we ask ourselves where our hearts are. Where is the heart? Where are we focusing on? Where are we going as a nation? Where is our heart? Where? And this question is very, very important for each and every one of us to answer, because if we have a country that is based on liberty and freedom, and for us to live as brothers and sisters in oneness and unity, and seeing our country going through wars, coup, and assassinations, and the bloodletting still going on, there is something wrong with our hearts. And that is just my commentary right there, Reverend Dede.
Yeah, bless God for that. Before I go to scripture, I just want to go back to my honorable ambassador when it comes to government informing the citizenry about what is going on. Do you think it's about time that the presidency speaks to the nation?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Being a president means that you are one who leads, not rule. You are one who leads, inspire, and motivate those people, motivate your citizenry. Okay, why? Because they put you there. Okay, they put you there. You are their servant. You are their employee. Okay, they deserve to hear from you and have you motivate and inspire them. Okay, let me say this. While I really appreciate what Reverend Red has said a few minutes ago, God is there. God is omnipresent, all powerful. But God also gave us choice. Until we decide to open ourselves, open our hearts, our minds, our everything to God, what's going to happen? So we must have a president who is prepared to not only just lead, he has to inspire, he has to motivate, and he must calm our fears. Let us
Wonderful,
know that
wonderful,
we are going
wonderful.
to be okay.
Wonderful. Let me just go with this scripture that I give back to my brother. You just brought me to the scripture I want to mention today. And that's First John speaks to this issue in another way. That's First John 3:12. It said, we should not be like Cain. You know, Cain killed his brother Abel. We should not be like Cain, who was of the evil one and murdered his brother. And why did he murder him? Because his deeds were evil and his brothers' deeds were righteous. So you see that's righteousness versus evil right now in our country, hatred versus love in our country. Like my brother Ellie said, that hatred seems to be overcoming, but the devil is a liar. Hatred will not overcome, because why? Our nation is the people of prayer, no matter what it is. We are a nation of praying people. And again, you're right, Ambassador. There's the choice we have to make. You know, God gives us his divine will and his permissive will. Most time we go on his permissive rather than divine will. Divine will, don't kill your brother, don't hurt your brother. So we go against the divine will and lean more on the permissive will. But the permissive will always lead us in the wrong direction. So we have to go back to the word of God. Second Chronicles 7:14 should be our call, our clarion call. We should know who we are, where we go wrong, and see God's face, confess our sins, and let God lead our nation back to where it's supposed to be. Because right now, we are going in the wrong direction. Go ahead, Alex.
Yes, we are going in the wrong direction because we allow pride to take over. And then if we are prideful in our hearts, we cannot humble ourselves because pride is the opposite of humility. And so if we are to humble, if God says humble, we must humble ourselves. But then we ask the question, what is the motive of all of these killings going on? Why, how do we know what's going on? But again, it boils down to the question of, the authority and to see how they can resolve these murders. But again, people want to live in peace and harmony. And I believe that those who are really suffering, those who are going through hardship and pain, and going through day to day, having maybe just bread on a table or wanting bread on a table, those are the people we should care for most. When I talk about we, mean leadership, those that are in leadership should care for those people because they are living in fear right now based on the safety conditions of the country. And so if I gather anything from the ambassador today, it will be, well, the facts are the facts. There's a difference between the facts and the truth, and that's a reality. The facts are there. He listed all of the deaths in his article, those who die, and the list continues. And it's something that we cannot deny or go around it. And it is ironic for some people to argue that yes, you guys live in the United States and in your vicinity or your city, the murder rate is high. But again, if you look at the statistics, the when it comes to resolution of those deaths, yeah, it is very high. So the police are effective and efficient in every way, and I'm not sure why some people want to use that as a cover up to see the situation that is going in our country. It is bizarre in a way, but what I can say here is that we are all concerned and we all want answers. We want to know where do we move, or how do we go forward, and going forward here has an economic impact on the common people. And so, my last question to Ambassador Barnes is that what what do you see as an economic recovery in our country, or how do you see the way forward, such as a framework for economic recovery based on your background in banking and financing and a former finance minister of our country?
Oh, thank you. Well said. I think the biggest challenge we have, economically, socially, politically, is this issue of corruption. Corruption is responsible as the culprit that drains resources from our country. So the very first order of business is killing corruption. Once we kill corruption, then we need to find ways we can reduce government spending. Okay, I'm talking about real nitty gritty practical ways to do it. Reduce government spending. We need to invest in renewable sectors of government of our country, renewable sector of our economy. What I mean by that is, look, right now we are largely an extractive-based country. We take out iron ore, gold, diamonds, mining, basically. Those resources will be exhausted. They will finish. So we need to exercise the foresight of investing in renewable or national resources. And what are some of the renewable national resources? First and foremost is human resources. We need to invest in our people so that they get skills, that they can go anywhere and be employable. Okay. We need to invest in agriculture. Okay. Anything that can be renewed, that will not be exhausted, we need to begin to focus primarily on that. Okay. We need to control costs, expand our tax base by engaging in a different paradigm. We have always used this concept of concession agreements for exploitation of our natural resources. It's archaic, it's obsolete. Okay. We need to begin to look at new paradigms. For example, public-private partnering. An investor comes in, we be partners with the investor where we are both owners. Right now, they come and they establish this concession agreement, and the concession agreement literally threatens sovereignty. For example, for example, Firestone Rubber Company, they have a police department in Harbel on their plantations. So, what happens to the sovereignty of our national police force? Who has jurisdiction in events in a situation of preventing crime? Okay, it's a minor example, and fortunately, it hasn't caused any major problems historically. But we need to relook at how we engage our partners. We need to understand that with globalization, it brings a whole new meaning to global and international cooperation. It makes the world a smaller place. And because of, for example, the World Wide Web, we now have access to the exact same information and data that investors have when they come to engage us. So we need to exploit that. And that will give us the freedom to say, you know what? I'm not going to deal with you because I don't like the deal you're offering me. I'm going to go over there. That's a better deal for me. Okay. So basically, we need to just literally turn the paradigm upside down. Okay. We need to begin to believe in ourselves. Okay. Whatever we have in terms of natural resources, the most valuable is our people. We must enhance that. We must empower that, okay, and make sure that they're safe, okay. But from an economic perspective, we need to relook at how we have done business, okay, with a focus on equity and fairness. Whatever Liberia owns belongs to every Liberian, regardless. Okay, so that's basically, those are my basic thoughts on how to fix it. We need to put people to work. Why don't we have a student work study program so that young people, when they're on vacation, they have some place to go to work, preferably outside of Monrovia. If we had a good, solid agriculture sector, we could do that. Okay, but it's a matter of enhancing human capacity, okay, and investing in renewable resources.
Great. So even reducing
One other
government.
thing, we need to cut down the size of government. Government is
Yeah,
too
that's what I
big,
was going to
it's
talk
too
about.
bloated. It's too bloated. I had recommended again at this same summit. I said, like I said, from assistant minister down, create a system of governance that will allow for continuity. So from assistant minister down should be technocrats. These are people that run our governance system without regard to ethnicity, gender, or even political affiliation. So we will restrict political appointments only to ministers and deputy ministers, and maybe some ambassadorial diplomatic appointments. But we need to rebuild institutions. Okay, our economy flounders, our social and justice system flounders because of weak institutions. You, as well as I, know that you get a ministry. When the government changes administration, from the minister on down, is swept out, and a whole new crew from the elevator operator all the way up comes in. That kills institutional memory. That kills growth and consistency. Okay, so we need to strengthen our institution, invest in renewable resources.
That's great. And thank you so much, Ambassador Barnes, for appearing on our program today. This is Gracious Hope's live broadcast, and this program is a platform that discusses contemporary issues that affect the Christian life of faith. And we have been sharing thoughts on the current prevailing situation in our homeland, Liberia. We love our country. We know that we all can work together in peace and harmony to bring about safety conditions and the rightful atmosphere for us to work and live in peace. And so, Ambassador Barnes, thank you so much for responding to our invitation. And also, I would like to inform you, our viewers, he has a book, and that book is called Left Brain, Right Brain, Thoughts and Musings of a Servant. And of course, we will invite him again to discuss that book on this program at a better time. Thank you so much for
Thank you.
appearing today.
Thank you. Thank you very much for being gracious hosts. Thank you very, very much.
You're
Thanks for
welcome.
coming. Thanks for coming, Mr. Ambassador. God bless you.
Likewise.
All right, Reverend Dede. Then this is how we conclude our broadcast for today. We'd like to thank you so much for listening. And of course, we've been discussing ways and means in which we can find hope in the midst of our troubles. That is the mysterious killings, economic hardship, and everything that is going wrong in our country, including reconciliation and the moral decay as a whole. And we all pray for the president of our country, his branch of government, the executive, as well as the other branches, the legislature with our legislators, as well as the judiciary and all the courts and officers and those who work to keep our country running. They are human beings. They have flaws like us. They make mistakes. However, when they are wrong or when they are not doing something effectively or efficiently, we call on or we voice out to give them that clarion call to perform their constitutionally mandated duty. Reverend Dede?
Yes, certainly, brother. You just, as usual, hit the nail on his head. I just want to encourage our people. We are praying for our nation. But the tendency of branding people in the diaspora for commenting on issues in this country, it is saddening, and it should not be the case, because while it's true we are away from home, we still love our nation. We can see the issues and speak to them. We were there before. We worked there before. And I keep reminding people, government comes and go, but the country remains, the country stays. So we have our obligation to our nation as well, biblically, spiritually, politically, in any form, to speak to issues that are affecting the fabric of our nation, that are affecting the sanctity of our spirituality in our nation. So nobody should start blaming somebody else because they spoke to the issues, whether you agree with the person's comments or not, but to start character assassination because somebody is speaking to the issues in this country. It is disturbing. First John 3:12 tells us we should know. Now First John 3:15. Everyone who hates his brother is a murderer. Just imagine, just hate in itself is murder. So we should stop this hatefulness, love our nation, speak the truth, disagree to agree, and let Liberia remain Liberia as we know it, brother.
All right. We'll say thank you so much for tuning. We'll be back here next week at the same time. And of course, we will be carrying on this series and we'll continue to run this series because we're raising awareness so that we all can experience what we call justice or what we know as justice. We want for justice to prevail. And if there's justice, there will be the unction of God's righteousness in our lives. Thank you so much for tuning in, and please share this video. Okay, share this video with your friends, families, and relatives so that they can get a copy and listen as well. We appreciate you every time sharing our link here, and it's a pleasure being with you today on the program. And of course, we'll be back here next week, the same time, 3 p.m. Central Time, 4 p.m. Eastern Time, and 8 p.m. GMT. And of course, from our end, we say, may you have a blessed day.